Bill Gates predicted COVID in 2015. He was already invested in the cure by 2020. He sold at the top in 2022. Now he's warning about something worse than COVID, and he's already building the infrastructure to respond to it. This is not a coincidence. This is a pattern. In 2015, one man described the exact pandemic that would kill 7 million people. Nobody listened. He didn't seem surprised. March 2015, Vancouver. Bill Gates takes the TED stage. He is not there to talk about software, not there to talk about charity. He is there to describe in precise detail the catastrophe that is going to kill millions of people. If anything kills over 10 million people in the next 2 decades, he said, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus. He showed slides, simulations, graphs of a pathogen jumping borders, overwhelming hospitals, emptying cities. He described a world grinding to a halt, people infected before they even knew they were sick, governments scrambling with no plan, healthcare systems collapsing under the weight of something they had never prepared for. The crowd applauded, the media reported it, and then the world forgot. 5 years later, every single frame of what he described played out on live television. Lockdown streets, overflowing ICUs, economies in freefall, governments borrowing trillions they didn't have. The IMF estimated COVID cost the global economy over $12.5 trillion. $12.5 trillion. Now, most people hear that story and think, genius, visionary, the man who saw it coming. But you're watching this channel, so ask the question everyone else skips. When a billionaire predicts a crisis, what was he already holding? Bill Gates is not a retired tech guy who got into charity work. The Gates Foundation is one of the largest donors to the World Health Organization. It is also the founding partner of Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, which distributes global health funding across the world. Gates seeded Gavi with $750 million at launch in the year 2000. That relationship gave him a direct seat at the table of every major global health decision that followed. So the man warning about pandemics funds the body that responds to pandemics. But it goes further than that. Public records show Gates personally owned over 1 million shares of BioNTech, the company that partnered with Pfizer to produce the dominant COVID vaccine. His foundation had also funded Moderna's early mRNA research years before COVID existed. He was financially embedded in the solution before the problem became public. While the world was in lockdown, while families were separated, businesses destroyed, and governments were borrowing money they may never pay back, those investment positions were growing. And Gates was not quiet about it. He was everywhere. In 2021, he publicly called mRNA vaccines the future of medicine. He pushed for universal vaccination across every country on Earth. He called hesitancy dangerous. He used his platform, his foundation, his access to world leaders to make sure the rollout happened at maximum speed and scale. Then, after the stock had run, he sold his BioNTech position for a massive profit. And then, publicly, he said the vaccines were not as effective as hoped, that they do not block infection, that they do not provide lasting protection, that they delivered limited benefit to healthy younger people. He called them magic on the way in, and not great on the way out. One public health professor put it plainly, the last person you want telling you a vaccine is ready is someone with a financial stake in it. The media never really pushed that question. They reported his warnings, amplified his recommendations, and moved on. The conflict of interest was always there in the public record. Nobody made it the headline. Now here is the part nobody has a clean answer for. In October 2019, just weeks before COVID-19 was identified in China, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation co-hosted a high-level pandemic simulation alongside the World Economic Forum and Johns Hopkins University. The exercise was called Event 201. The scenario they modeled was a fictional coronavirus. It spread through respiratory transmission. It overwhelmed hospitals globally. It crashed supply chains. It triggered economic collapse. It killed millions. 2 months later, the simulation was real life. Defenders of Gates will say this proves nothing. Pandemic simulations have been running for decades. Scientists had been warning about coronaviruses specifically for over 20 years. Event 201 was responsible planning, not foreknowledge. That argument is fair and worth hearing. But here is what that argument does not address. When the real pandemic hit, the institutions that designed and ran that simulation were immediately positioned at the center of the global response. They did not scramble, they did not improvise. The frameworks, the supply chains, the funding mechanisms, the communication strategies, they were already built. They executed, and the money followed the preparation. Being prepared and being positioned can look identical from the outside. The difference is in the intent, and intent is the one thing you can never fully prove. So now it is 2026, and Gates is back at the microphone. In his annual letter published in January 2026, he wrote something that should stop every person reading it cold. He said, and this is a direct quote, "Today, an even greater risk that a naturally caused pandemic is that a non-government group will use open-source artificial intelligence tools to design a bioterrorism weapon. Not might, not could, will." He's not hedging, he's not being cautious, he's declaring. Think about what that means. In the past, creating a biological weapon required a nation-state. It required expert virologists, sophisticated laboratory equipment, years of research, government funding. The barrier to entry was enormous. Gates is saying that barrier is collapsing, that a small group, not a government, not a military, could potentially use freely available AI tools to design and deploy a pathogen from a laptop with an internet connection. He's also said that a genetically engineered virus now is easier to produce than a nuclear weapon and could kill more people. And the world, he says, is absolutely not ready. The pandemic preparedness infrastructure he spent 2 decades building is still standing. The World Health Organization partnerships, the mRNA platform investments, the Gavi distribution network, the rapid response frameworks, all of it funded, all of it waiting. If he's right about what's coming, those institutions will again be first to respond. The investments will follow the crisis, exactly like last time. Bill Gates may be completely right. Scientists and weapons experts broadly agree AI-enabled bioweapons are a real and growing threat. Another pandemic is not a question of if, it is when. But being right and being conflicted are not the same thing. They can exist in the same man at the same time with the same warning. A person can predict a fire, fund the fire department, and own stock in the company that makes the hose. That does not make them an arsonist, but it makes their warnings worth examining very carefully before you accept them at face value. Because in this world, the people who tell you what is coming are usually the ones who have already decided what comes next. If this made you think differently, subscribe. We don't do mainstream. We don't do comfortable. Drop it in the comments. Visionary or always on the right side of the trade? The throne always falls. We just document it.